last night, I mean, listen, I thought the most interesting thing about Colombia yesterday was going to be the testimony in front of Congress. But no, that was not the most interesting thing about Colombia yesterday. Because, well, the president and the head of the anti-Semitism task force and two members of their board of trustees were testifying in front of Congress, students at Columbia were creating an autonomous zone. We all knew. Well, yes, actually, Joseph, yes, it is. And I'm going to prove that to you in the words of the students. We all knew there was going to be another Chaz at some point. One of the biggest regrets that I have from 2020 is that I never visited the Chaz because I was afraid. I was rather high profile then. I was being carted around and trotted out on conservative media, and people knew who I was. And I was like, if I go to the Chaz, I'm going to get beat up. And I really didn't want to do that. And so I never went. And I really feel like that was a missed opportunity for me to experience socialism in real life. And I've always regretted that decision. And so I kind of hope that this new Columbia University autonomous zone on campus sticks around for a little while, because it's much easier for me to get to New York City than it is for me to get to Seattle. And I kind of want to experience an autonomous zone. So last night I posted this on the Substack, and I have I have some of the clips of the congressional testimony yesterday. And if you guys missed the congressional testimony yesterday, that congressional testimony was fire, man. It was good. It was good. Yes, maybe they'll even create an autonomous zone in Boston. That would be even better. I'm like an hour away from Boston. I can just drive right down. I can do a day trip to the autonomous zone. Harvard actually has a pretty good location with which to create autonomous zones in the city. They could take over all of Harvard Square. Why not? What could possibly go wrong? Let's all just, cross our fingers. Anyway. So I posted this on the Substack last night, which you can read by heading over to Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. What is this? Columbia University students are taking over the campus. They're setting up an autonomous zone. They have tents. They're calling it the Liberated Zone. Of course, we know what this is because we listen to socialism all the time. We know that when they're putting up signs that say liberated, what that means is they are going to liberate from capitalism. We know that the students at Columbia are identifying with the Hamas terrorists because they view the Hamas terrorists as the decolonizers in that whole conflict, where Israel are the evil settler colonists who are the capitalists that privatized indigenous land under the oppressive force of capitalism. That's what makes them settler colonists. Colonization, colonialization means taking land and imposing capitalism on it and privatizing that land away from the indigenous population. So in this conflict, Israel means capitalist. They mean bourgeois. They mean the ones that hold all the power. And Gaza, or Palestinians, or Hamas are the oppressed proletariat who are rising up to the glorious perpetual revolution of decolonizing the land and taking it back from the evil settler colonists. So that's why students at Columbia, of course, are identifying with Hamas. People are all like, this is anti-Semitic, this is anti-Semitic. I mean, I guess maybe, but really it's not as anti-Semitic as much as it is anti-capitalist. Because the students don't care that the Israelis are Jewish. That's not actually what they care about. They care that they are the evil settler colonists who have privatized indigenous land under the oppressive force of capitalism. They care that they're capitalist, which is ironic because, I don't know, what is the word for that? Like Israel literally has communes. Israel is effing socialist, right? Which is a whole other conversation for another day. But what are those communities? What is the name of those communities that exist outside? You guys know what I'm talking about, right? These farming communities. Yeah, kibbutz. This is what it is. These are basically communes. So it's ironic that the students believe that Israel is synonymous with capitalism, but that's what it is. That's what it is. See, you guys knew what I was talking about. So we can look at Andy No's tweet here. Far left extremists have set up a Palestine-themed version of the Chaz to demand liberation. We all know what they're trying to liberate from. That liberation is from the oppressive force of capitalism. We've got our old friend, Stu Studio. Shout out to Stu. Stu's actually there. Stu is on the ground. Stu is getting video. Stu's doing a good job. Look at this. We have an update on the Columbia University student-created liberated zone called the Gaza Solidarity Encampment. Mass arrests were thwarted by hundreds of students rushing out and making a chain around the encampment. So the students were all there last night. Now look who showed up. The Party for Socialism and Liberation. Where have we seen the Party for Socialism and Liberation before? Does anyone remember? Because we've watched a lot of content from the Party for Socialism and Liberation. What content have we watched from them? Yep, shout outs to Stu. We like Stu. Stu's doing a good job. Yes, we have seen the Party for Socialism and Liberation on Socialism Saturday, but what specifically? Do you guys remember? What specifically? Do you guys remember the 6-hour socialism conference that we watched? That was the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Do you guys remember? This is important. No. This is not the RCA. No. No. Different parties. Completely different parties. In fact, do you guys want to know who the Party for Socialism and Liberation is? Hang on, I'll show you. It's just going to it's going to take a minute to find. We're going to go into the video vault. You guys are going to know this when you see them. But I just have to find it. The video vault has too much stuff in it. Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Bing! Bing! Revolutionary Socialists admit the 2020 riots will happen again. Oh, really? Tell us more. Tell us more, Party of Socialism and Liberation. Hang on. Let's just remind ourselves who the Party for Socialism and Liberation is. Watch.
I think that, we are heading into, it's not me, the party's assessment of a highly explosive moment in U.S. politics. And it seems somewhat calm right now. Maybe, there's it's not 35 million people in the streets like the summer of 2020, but that's going to happen again. And that's going to happen with actually greater frequency. And even, I would say, even on a bigger scale in the years to come.
That's the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Right there. In this video that we watched on Socialism Saturday, they were talking about their book, Socialist Reconstruction, which the book is basically outlining how they view the socialist world. And this is a 10-minute clip. We're not going to watch the whole thing. You can find it on the Substack, in which the Party for Socialism and Liberation was literally telling us on video, the riots of 2020 are going to happen again. They're going to happen again. They're going to be even bigger. They're going to be even worse than they were the first time. And guess what, guys? This was a pretty important clip when we found it. And when we found this clip, I sent it out to everyone. I sent it out to all the usual influencers saying, the socialists are literally telling us they're going to do this again. Do you guys, do you want to tell people? Well, predictably, no one wanted to tell people because the influencers don't. That's actually not true. Liz Wheeler actually did. Liz Wheeler ended up using that clip, but I think Liz Wheeler was the only one. And lo and behold, who is involved at the riots? Not riots yet. I shouldn't say riots. They aren't riots yet. Who is involved in the creation of the autonomous zone at Columbia University? the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And guess what, guys? I can go into my DMs with James Lindsay himself, and I can show you when I sent James Lindsay that clip that we just watched, and I said, James, do you think that this, might be important? In fact, let me just do that. Just so there's no confusion about this. Because I can still, he may have blocked me on Twitter, but I can still see my DMs with him. Hang on. I want to make sure I'm not doxing anyone. I just want to show you guys this just to be clear. About how much James Lindsay, it was the very last thing I sent him. Check this out. The very last thing that I ever sent James Lindsay on Twitter before he blocked me. I sent him that clip that I just showed you guys. In this video, you'll hear this was from November 26, 2023. In this video, you'll hear radical revolutionary socialists admit the following, and we can go look at the tweet. And I said to him, I don't usually bother you with these, but this one seems kind of important. See, and click into the tweet. In this video, you'll hear real radical revolutionary socialists admit the following. The Black Lives Matter riots of 2020 will happen again with greater frequency and on a larger scale. The 2024 election could be the site of a pre-revolutionary crisis in the United States. That democracy means socialism, a government that upholds the values of socialism. James never shared that. Because of course it came from me. I don't think so, Naruto. I don't remember specifically the date on the video. So I would not say it was, I don't remember when it was made. What I can tell you is that we found this video in November. As soon as we found it, I put it out there, including sending it to the God Lindsay himself. And James Lindsay refused to share it. And now, lo and behold, the exact same organization that video was from is involved in this autonomous zone thing at Columbia University. Huh. It's almost like we could have seen this coming a mile and a half away. Oh, wait, we did. And we tried to tell people about it. And the God Lindsay and all the other conservative influencers just couldn't be bothered to share those silly socialists because that's not a real threat, Carlin. That's not a real threat. Don't you know that these are not the groups we need to worry about? Oh, really, assholes? Oh, really? And none of my audience was surprised because we all knew this was going to happen. James Lindsay released a new discourses video about tyranny today. He basically defined capitalism. Okay, how did he actually define capitalism? I want to if you guys are going to tell me, first of all, and he's of course refusing to say capitalism because James can't give up the fucking grift. How specifically, Adrian, did he define capitalism? Because if James said anything other than private property ownership, he is not correct. So did James specifically say that tyranny is private property ownership? Did he use those words specifically? Because quite frankly, guys, unless James specifically uses the words private property ownership, I no longer want to hear about this. I am so sick of hearing from people. You guys have no idea how many times I've heard this. Carlin, James said capitalism in a podcast like 3 years ago. Can't you just let up? He said the word capitalism once. And I'm like, really? Really? You want to give him credit for saying capitalism in a podcast 3 years ago and never saying it since? Really? Because I say capitalism at a minimum of several dozen times a day. So did he say private property ownership or didn't he? Let me know. Anyway, I'm just saying that if people had been listening to my content, this would not come as any surprise at all. Because we told you so. We told you so. Here's some more. Here's another post where they're literally calling each other comrade in the post. I've got some updates from today that are going on Twitter. So, Adrian, this is the problem. This is what I'm talking about. Then he did not say capitalism. Stop giving James credit for things that James is not doing. If you're telling me that he pussyfooted around it and said Mao's revolution a lot, that's not even Adrian. You've watched my content long enough to know better. That's not even in the same goddamn league. It's not even in the same fucking universe as saying capitalism. So no, James gets zero credit because James is still refusing to tell people what is going on. And unless James actually says capitalism, or unless he actually says private property ownership, I would just really appreciate if people would stop bringing it up, is I guess my point. Because again, like, I hear this every day. People come into my feed and they're like, James is kind of pussyfooting around the idea of capitalism, Carlin. Isn't that progress? No, it's not. It's not at all. Until and unless James says capitalism or private property ownership, James gets zero credit for pussyfooting. Anyway, let's take a look at some of the things that are coming out on the Twitters. We've got this one. Police have entered the encampment in Colombia and are preparing to arrest anyone who won't leave. This is going to go real well. I'm going to tell you what, it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out at Colombia. The president of Colombia authorized the New York City police to go on campus and start arresting people, which they did. Ilhan Omar's daughter was one of the people arrested. There have been students that have been suspended. So we're going to see who wins, because this is going to be a fight between the Zionists and the Marxists, who the Zionists have funded for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. Who's going to win? I honestly don't know. Is it going to be the Jewish billionaires and the ADL, or is it going to be the Marxists that the Jewish billionaires literally were funding for fucking decades before they realized, oh, wait a second, there might be a problem here? Again, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. After the police moved in on students and started making arrests, students have defiantly taken the adjacent lawn to keep the protest in solidarity with Gaza at Columbia going. So, oh, wow, shocking. They broke up the encampment, they took away their tents, but the students didn't leave. I just don't know how we could have predicted this. The students didn't give up and go home. It's not like they've been indoctrinated into this ideology since they were 5 years old or anything. It's not as though this is the only way they've ever seen the world. You're telling me you took away their tents and they didn't just give up and leave? Our friend Bettina Love is there. Bettina is a socialist teacher educator that does all sorts of stuff with Haymarket Books. Bettina works at Columbia, teaches at Columbia, at Teachers College. Bettina Love seems to be showing solidarity with the students at Columbia. Is Bettina Love going to be reprimanded for this? Because why are faculty members able to show solidarity with students at Columbia who are openly and flagrantly violating the university rules, to the point with which Columbia University's president is calling in the NYPD and suspending students? But you're telling me that it's perfectly fine for teacher, educator, and self-professed Marxist socialist Bettina Love to express solidarity and encourage the students to keep going? Kind of sounds like Bettina is violating university policy to me. Check this out. I'm on Columbia's campus. The cops made the school's facility workers take down the encampment and take apart the food not yet eaten after 120 students, and I hear 2 NLG observers, were arrested. All campus doors are locked. Teachers are canceling classes due to fear of the police. Why would teachers at Columbia fear the police? Does anyone have any guesses? Why on earth would teachers who are just trying to hold classes at Columbia, why on earth would they fear the police? Could it be that socialists believe that the police are the managers of private property and they want to abolish all police and they want to abolish all prisons, the prison industrial complex? And so when people are saying that the teachers at Columbia fear the police, that's probably exactly Liquid Marble. That's probably because those teachers are socialists. That's probably because they're socialists. That's the whole point. Check this out. This is actually a great video from Laura Loomer. I want you guys to listen to the sound on this video. It's hard to hear, but I want you to listen to it. Like, get headphones if you can. I want you to listen to the chanting in the background, okay? You can listen to Laura Loomer yelling at a blonde girl too, but listen to the chanting in the background.
How are you when you all do that? Yeah, do you like that Napoleon? Yeah, Napoleon. You have a Napoleon class.
To serve and protect, right?
Who are
you serving? Who are you protecting?
You protect that law. You like that?
I support law enforcement. I don't support Palestinian terrorists like you. I support NYPD officers. You're a fucking pig, not the police.
Sticks and stones, honey. Sticks and stones.
I think you're a pig.
Exactly. You guys heard it. They're chanting that the NYPD is the same as the KKK. Exactly. They're chanting that the NYPD, I don't think it's USA. I couldn't make out the other word, but they are absolutely chanting that the NYPD and the KKK is the same thing. Does anyone want to fancy a guess about why Columbia University students would believe that the NYPD and the KKK are the same thing? Anyone want to fancy a guess? I'll tell you. Because one of the things that socialists teach, and I talk about this in my How to Speak Socialist training, one of the things that socialists teach is that the police are descended from the KKK. In fact, let me pull that up. Since we're doing a good number on this, let me just pull up that slide real quick. I've got my Canva open. I was working on something else anyway. Let me pull that slide up so I can show you guys specifically, because this was actually in a school assignment. This was part of a school assignment that we saw in 2020, and they teach this stuff all the time, but I'm going to show you just a really overt example of it. If my page wants to load Canva, let me find it. Hang on. Here it is. Bing. One second, I'm making it nice and big for you guys so you can see it. So this was a school assignment that was handed out in schools in 2020. School assignment compares police officers to slave owners and the KKK. 8th grade teachers in a school outside Dallas gave students a homework assignment comparing police officers to the KKK, because what they say is police are descended from the people who were catching runaway slaves. And of course, we also know they believe that the police are the managers of private property. We learned that from the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the same ones that are helping organize this autonomous zone on Columbia's campus. And guess what, guys? It's been 4 years since this assignment became public. They were probably teaching it before then. The students that were learning that 4, 5, 6 years ago are now in college, possibly at Columbia and many other places as well. So it's not as though Columbia is the one introducing these ideas. These ideas were already introduced years ago, decades ago, in the school system through these assignments. And now we're seeing the manifestation of this exact thing when we, going back to the 8,000 tabs I have open on my desktop. Now we're literally seeing this manifest in this video that Laura Loomer just took today, in which you could hear them chanting in the background, NYPD, KKK, it's all the same. This is why people need to learn how to speak socialist, guys. This right here. Because every single person that's been following my work understands all of these connections. They understand why all this is taking place. They understand all of the language. While the influencers over on Twitter are just tripping over themselves right now. They have no idea. I saw Brit Hume earlier today. Let me show you guys. I saw Brit Hume earlier today. I retweeted this earlier. He was talking about the NPR lady that they're all trying to get fired. Oh, here it is. Emergency rally for Colombia in solidarity, in collective, united struggle for a liberated Palestine. We all know why that is. Hang on. Not there. Not there. I had this earlier. Where did it go? Where did it go, Brit Hume? There it is. This is all just woke gibberish, Brit Hume says. No, it's not. When the CEO of NPR that you guys are trying to get fired says white male westernized construct, that's not gibberish. All of this language comes from somewhere. It comes from the same place that this queer Marxist language comes in. Look at this. Fucking libs of TikTok. Look at this person. Libs of TikTok yesterday. People are now identifying as gender season, which means your gender is connected to and can change depending on the seasons. And her brilliant conclusion is, we have a serious mental health crisis in this country. Every single person who watches my content knows what this is. Do you know how we know what this is? It's not just that the idea of gender fluidity is about abolishing the gender binary as an attack on capitalism, which created the nuclear family, which upholds capitalism, which is the number one thing they want to abolish. It's not just that we know that this stuff around gender is all about attacking the gender binary and the nuclear family. This person literally has a picture of Karl Marx in the video. There is a picture of Karl Marx in the fucking video. This is not a mental health problem. This is a problem with the K through 12 public schools being taken over by queer Marxists and indoctrinating these kids into the cult of queer, which is a far left political ideology, since they were 5 years old. And conservatives cannot wrap their heads around this, that this is not a mental health problem. This is a deliberate effort to abolish the gender binary and destabilize the nuclear family, both as an attack on capitalism. And we know that when Karl Marx is literally in the fucking video. Look at this. I want to give it a shout out to Jennifer Rachel. Left this comment on my Substack regarding yesterday's testimony in front of Congress. The woman to whom most of Banks's questions were directed said in response to his questions about the folks being spelled with an X instead of a K, that perhaps the students didn't know how to spell reminded me of Kamala Harris a bit. The oversimplification of the issue, the coyness, the feigning stupidity. If Banks had been knowledgeable, he could have called her out and put her between a rock and a hard place. He could have started out as he did, and then after she feigned ignorance, point out that the language was socialist and that she would have us believe that the school is so out of touch with its students as to not know what ideologies the students are pushing in the name of the college. And then we talked about maybe targeting specifically with that. But the point is, if that congressman, all these conservative influencers were tweeting that clip yesterday of the congressman saying, "Why are you spelling folks with X?" And they were all like, "Own the libs, bro! We own the libs!" And my community's coming in and being like, if you morons actually knew how to speak socialist, you actually could have gotten so much more out of this. You could have had a much bigger moment. You could have gotten so much more out of this president if you just knew how to speak the language. But no, your priority's on owning the libs, bro, and so that's all you ever do is own the libs. Anyway. Stu is still out there. Maybe we should check in on Stu's timeline. Check this out. They're setting up another liberated zone. Look at this. The students that were cleared out by the NYPD are already setting up another liberated zone. They've still got their signs. They've still got their tents. They're all wearing their masks. They haven't gone anywhere. Let's just check in on Stu's Twitter feed. I want to encourage everyone to follow Stu. He's doing a great job. No, he hasn't posted anything new yet. Oh, shit. Cordell West is there? Of course Cornel West is there. Of course he is. Of course he is. Anyway, guys, we'll have to keep an eye on what's going on at Columbia because I do think it is a fascinating little jaunt into what we can expect this summer. And of course, we're the only ones who know what to expect because we're the only ones that are paying attention to this per usual. So if you want to know what's going to come before it comes, if you don't want to be surprised like all the influencers are, even though I tried to tell everyone this was going to happen when I found that video clip last November of them literally saying it was going to happen and no one was paying attention and James Lindsay didn't want to tell anyone. If you want to know what's coming before it actually happens, join me. Have a seat. We do this 6 days a week. Please subscribe to the channel if you are not already. If you would like to subscribe to my Substack, which is actually my primary content platform on the internet, head over to Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. If you want to give me a virtual high five for predicting this back in November based on primary source video evidence, you can sign up for my Substack for $8 a month, $80 a year. You guys fund the time it takes to do this because I spend dozens of hours a week just watching socialist and leftist content so that I can tell you what's going to happen literally 6 months before it does. So if you want to fund that effort, sign up for $8 a month, $80 a year. You can also feel free to super chat. Super chatting does help support the work I'm doing. I do prefer Substack memberships, but if you want to super chat, that's cool too. How bad is this summer going to be? I would not make any plans to visit any lefty cities this summer. Like, that's kind of my position on it. I think it's going to be bad. We got a presidential election coming up. I think it's going to be bad. I'll pop the link in the chat to Stu's Twitter and actually, just let me do it now. Hang on. Bing. He is the Stu Studio over on Twitter and definitely recommend the follow.